So you started using ozone with joints, right? That's
Yeah.
where you started. And then how did it evolve?
Over the years, say like over a 10, 15-year period of time, I started to learn some of these things that I just said. Number one, it takes away infections.
Mm-hmm.
And I've developed the opinion, Joy, that darn near everything that happens to us that's bad as we get older, there's a microbe involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I realized that, I said, well, that may mean that ozone is appropriate for darn near anything that walks in the door. So I started thinking about, say, bladder infections. Shoot ozone into the bladder, clears up a bladder infection. Suppose, by the way, it's also anti-cancer. So you could take ozone and use it and inject it in areas where there's cancer, and it'll kill the cancer cells. I got
Mm-hmm.
some great stories to tell people about bladder cancer, for example.
Mm.
Uh, and so it kills microbes. It stimulates stems and blast cells. It takes away inflammation. It
Mhm.
takes away oxidant stress. And all of those things are what we need to get our bodies to heal better.
Yeah. So you started injecting into various organs and tissues. And
Yeah,
then, when did you start to inject into the blood?
that was something I learned in Germany. They
Okay.
actually been treating blood in Germany, at least since the early 60s. And
Mm.
so for the listeners, we put a needle in the vein. We take blood out in a bag, very similar to if you went to Red Cross and you were donating blood, same idea. So your blood comes out into the bag. We then inject ozone, which is a gas, it's oxygen. So we inject the ozone into the bag, move the bag up and down, mix the two together. The ozone is instantaneously reactive. So
Mhm.
basically, it's going to take that blood with all the various, very interesting cells in that blood, and it's going to react with those cells in such a way that they're changed. And
Mm.
we infuse those cells back into the body. It's a closed system. Blood goes out, ozone goes in, blood goes back in. Very simple, pretty quick. You can do this in as short as like 5, 10 minutes. But
Mm.
when that blood goes back into the patient's body, of course, it's blood. It's treated blood now, but it's blood, and it's going to go everywhere. It's going to go in their brains, it's going to go in their hearts, it's going to go in their liver, left ankle, whatever. It's going everywhere. And that treated blood has some very interesting properties to it and stimulates all kinds of interesting things, but mostly the kinds of things I just talked about. It'll get rid of oxidant stress, revs up antioxidant enzymes, kills any microbes, can disable cancer cells. It stimulates detoxification in the liver. It reduces inflammation. And as listeners are hearing me rattle off all these effects of ozone,
Mm.
if they're thinking to themselves, that can't possibly be true. One molecule can't possibly cause all of that stuff to happen. Um, then they would be thinking they would be thinking what would normally be true. Yeah, I mean, there's no molecule that I am aware of outside of ozone that has that many properties, but they're all well documented, and the stuff really does work as advertised.
Right. And ozone is naturally produced by the human body, correct?
That is true, and that's a good point. And that was shown in 2004 at Scripps University, where what happens with our immune systems is that we have an antibody. The antibody goes out and grabs on to, say, a virus. It'll grab onto that virus, and then it's going to haul that virus into a macrophage cell, which is an immune cell that will kill the virus. But in order for that system to work, when the antibody grabs onto the virus, it has to neutralize the virus. Because if it doesn't neutralize the virus and then hauls it into the macrophage, now the macrophage is infected.
Hmm.
And there's a good likelihood it'll kill the macrophage. So the antibody has to neutralize the virus, and it neutralizes it with ozone. It actually
Hmm.
produces and releases ozone. Once the virus is neutralized, falls into the macrophage, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that must be pretty exciting when you saw that the antibody was able to produce ozone molecules.
Yeah, because most people think ozone toxic, and if in fact if you go into the Library of Medicine and plug in ozone, probably 95% of everything that you read, at least it used to be this way, is about how toxic ozone is to the lungs and how bad it is to breathe ozone and this and that. And there's just no reality to that at all. But that's
Yeah,
mostly what you see.
I see it. And is it true that ozone molecules also can make red blood cells more pliable?
Yeah, so it's exceedingly good for circulatory problems.
Hmm.
So you have the substance here that, number one, is cheap. It's pennies to make ozone. It's nothing. It's almost nothing. So you got a
Mm-hmm.
substance that's extremely inexpensive. You got a substance that, when used properly, is entirely safe. There's like nothing ever significant that can go wrong with anybody ever. Inexpensive, 100% safe, with a wide variety of applications, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, immune-related diseases, infections, injuries, pain. I mean, how can you go wrong? It's really astounding when you add all this together.